Right now, you are making a decision. Maybe it feels small. Maybe you barely noticed it. Maybe your brain already labeled it insignificant before you even finished the thought. But according to one of the most unsettling ideas in all of modern physics, the decision you just made did not simply happen and move on. It cracked the universe open. It split reality into two separate, equally real branches, one where you chose one thing, and one where you chose the other. Both of those versions of you now exist. Both of them are reading something right now. Just not this. That is not a metaphor. That is a serious scientific framework called the many worlds interpretation, and it was first proposed in 1957 by a Princeton physicist named Hugh Everett III, who was so convinced he was right that the scientific establishment ignored him for decades. He left academia. He never saw his theory become one of the most discussed ideas in quantum physics. And in a universe where he made different choices, maybe he did. Here is what you need to understand. First, the universe, at its smallest scale, does not behave the way you think it does. At the quantum level, particles do not have fixed positions or fixed states. They exist in what physicists call superposition, a condition where they are in multiple possible states at the same time, simultaneously. A particle does not decide where it is until something observes it. Until that observation happens, it is, in a real and mathematical sense, everywhere at once. This is not philosophy. This is not a thought experiment. This has been demonstrated in a laboratory. In 1927, the double-slit experiment showed the world that a single electron, fired at a screen with two gaps in it, passes through both gaps simultaneously as if it were a wave spread across space and only collapses into a single location when it is measured. The act of measuring it changes what it does. Before you look, it is all possibilities. The moment you look, it picks one. For decades, physicists argued about what this meant. The most popular interpretation, the Copenhagen interpretation, said that the superposition simply collapses when observed and that you should not ask what happens to the other possibilities. They just cease to exist. They are not real. Do not worry about them. Hugh Everett looked at that answer and found it deeply unsatisfying. Because here is the problem. If quantum mechanics governs everything, and it does, because everything in the universe is made of quantum particles, then the rule of collapse cannot just apply to electrons. It has to apply to everything, including the measuring device, including the scientist holding the measuring device, including you, sitting there, watching any of this happen. So Everett asked a different question. What if nothing ever collapses? What if all the possibilities just keep existing, but in separate, branching versions of reality? What if the universe does not pick one outcome? What if it simply branches, every single time, into every possible outcome, all of which are equally real? This is the many worlds interpretation. And if it is correct, then right now, at this exact moment, there are versions of you who made different choices at every decision point in your life. There is a version of you who took a different job. There is a version of you who said something different in a conversation that changed everything. There is a version of you who was never born because the people who became your parents made different choices before they ever met. All of those versions are real. All of them believe they are the original. None of them can reach the others. David Deutsch, a physicist at Oxford who has spent decades developing the framework of quantum computation, argues that the many worlds interpretation is not just one possible reading of quantum mechanics. It is the only reading that takes the mathematics seriously without adding extra, untestable assumptions. He says that when you follow the equations of quantum mechanics to their logical conclusion, branching worlds is what you get. Everything else is a story physicists added to make themselves feel better about a deeply strange universe. Now here is where it starts to feel personal. Every decision you make is, at the quantum level, underpinned by physical processes happening in your neurons. Electrons moving, chemical reactions triggering, quantum-level events firing in patterns that produce what you experience as a thought, a choice, a moment of hesitation. If those quantum events branch, and the many worlds framework says they do, then your decisions branch with them. The universe does not pick which version of you continues. All of them do. This means that every version of you that has ever felt like a failure exists in the same mathematical structure as every version of you that succeeded. Every version of you that stayed exists alongside every version that left. Every version that said yes, and every version that said no, and every version that said nothing at all and watched the moment pass. Sean Carroll, a theoretical physicist at Caltech and one of the clearest modern voices on this framework, puts it this way: the branches are real, they are equally valid, And there is no cosmic hierarchy that makes one version of you more true than another. Your choices do not erase other outcomes. They just move you into one branch while the others continue without you. Think about what that means. The version of you who did not make it is real. The version of you who thrived beyond anything you currently imagine is also real. Right now, as you are reading this, both of those versions are somewhere in the structure of the universe, living out the consequences of branches that split off from moments you have already passed through. You will never reach them, but they reached you, because you are the result of every branch that led here, every quantum event, every decision, every particle that landed where it did and not somewhere else, stretching all the way back to the beginning of everything. And here is the part that physicists almost never say out loud, but that the mathematics implies with complete indifference.